So, hello everybody. I'm Zach Schulman, as many of you know, class of '87, law 1990, and I direct the entrepreneurship program at Cornell. We call it for short EAC. Thanks for joining us today for our latest webinar brought to you by the Cornell Entrepreneur Network, CEN, Cornell Silicon Valley, CSV, and EAC. As you know, Cornell has some extraordinary entrepreneurs, and we're thrilled today to welcome Dane Glasgow, who is Vice President of Facebook Entertainment at Meta. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. Our format will be a conversation and then some of your Q&A. We'll be weaving in the questions that were submitted in advance, as well as taking your questions live. Please start entering your questions now and throughout the program. When you do enter questions, use the chat box, please, and select all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see messages. We are recording the program so you can view it later. You can view it on the CEN live stream, as well as the EAC YouTube channel, along with previous episodes of this series and more. And we'll pop those links into the chat box now. Finally, another special announcement. I want to let you know that we have launched a new networking product called Cayuga Forum. Cayuga because of Cayuga Lake, obviously. It is a light version of YPO. I'm guessing some of you know what YPO is, Young Professional Organization. Alums are put into pods of 8 people. They meet monthly, and it's basically peer-to-peer support and growth. Okay, we'll also put that link into the chat. I see Amanda just did. Thanks, Amanda. If you want to learn more about Cayuga Forum, check out the link. You can also contact me directly. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so we're going to be launching that very soon, and then we'll just keep a rolling launch schedule of the Cayuga Forum. All right, so now we're ready to start finally. So, Dane, welcome to the show. I think that a little background on your journey would help set the stage. I usually don't do this at the beginning and read something so long, but I'm going to because I think it's important. So please correct me if I get anything wrong. That would really be helpful to me. So you started in 1995 as an Air Force ROTC freshman. You realized that ROTC wasn't the best fit, and you continued on your sophomore year working at a tech company to help pay your tuition. And then in 1998, you joined fellow Cornellian Bill Trenchard at Jump, one of the first online calendar products. Side note, when I was a lawyer, I used to help represent Jump. So I knew you way back then. It's just kind of funny, actually, you and Bill both. And this was like the heart of the internet blast-off times. I mean, it was hype, hype, hype. Internet was full steam ahead. Everybody was jumping on board. So Jump accelerated. You took a leave from Cornell, and then Jump was gobbled up by Microsoft quickly, where you all joined the recently acquired Hotmail team. By the way, I got an email the other day from somebody with a Hotmail address, which I always think is kind of funny. Then you spent 8 years at Microsoft after the acquisition. You never finished your college degree. So far, am I doing okay?
So far, my mom still gives me a hard time about that part, but yes.
Then you left Microsoft to start Positronics, and that company got acquired by eBay in late 2008. Then you spent 6 years at eBay. Then you left eBay to start Neoglyphic Entertainment, a company focusing on the AR/VR space. And ultimately you end up at Google, where you stayed for another 4 years, working on products like Google Maps and local search. And then just recently, in 2021, I'm not sure the date, but a few months ago, you get recruited away from Google to join Facebook, now called Meta. That is quite the journey, right? Looks like 3 startups, 3 big companies. You got some incredible experience at all of them, which is going to really make our conversation fun, by the way. So, first of all, did I get everything kind of close to right?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay.
Best laid plans.
Best laid plans. Yeah, I'm sure you had it all mapped out when you were a freshman.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's jump in, and we'll start with your time as a student, okay, and we'll quickly accelerate past there. So, how did you get involved with Jump? What did it mean to you? And was it just crazy being in the middle of the internet? Did you even realize what the internet was? I mean, clearly you knew what the internet was, but did you know what the internet hype was in the bubble? And I have to point out for the listeners, Dane obviously knows this, that Jump's offices, its corporate offices, were now were then what is now our eHub co-working space in College Town. You're the second company, by the way, that's told me that. So it's kind of funny. TheGlobe.com
Yeah.
was also in that space, probably the same time you were, or
They
close
they
to it.
they moved out to New York, and basically the company that I was working for, and that was based out of Maryland, we had part of that floor, and Bill had part of that floor, and so
Excellent, excellent.
that was actually how we got connected. Um,
So
yeah.
tell us how you got involved with Jump.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Both Bill and I had from different paths sort of identified and started to build out teams that were student run and student driven teams building out software for other companies and other people, and that was everything from web technology to CD-ROMs back in that time period.
Yeah.
And so I think both of us were having a similar thought, which was, the at the beginning of a gold rush, it's not always the best time to be selling picks and shovels, and we were selling services to some extent, and while other people were digging for gold and building like the next generations of products, and sort of building out the future of what the internet could be. And so I think we both got really excited about that prospect, and so the opportunity to work together came up, and so we ended up connecting, and that was really awesome. Bill had done some amazing things at Cornell and with the team, and so it was really awesome just to get.
So did was Bill a senior when you met him?
Gosh, yes,
Because
that's right.
Bill did finish
Yeah.
college, right?
Yeah,
I think
he was successful at that, and my timing was a year off.
yeah. And what was it like to be in the middle of the internet bubble? I mean, like, did you
Oh
even realize it at the time?
gosh, I'd say like certainly by that point in like '98, there was definitely enough hype that was happening that I think everybody kind of understood what was about to happen. I don't think anyone could have guessed at the pace and how fast things would accelerate.
Yeah.
But certainly that was what pretty well understood, and it was surreal in some ways to be a part of that. Like, I mean, we were at the point where when we went to California to get VC funding, we couldn't rent a car, which we didn't realize until we had landed. So
Because you were too young.
we were too young. So like, there's a bunch of surreal moments. And I'd say it's certainly at that age you don't know what you don't know, and so that helps you in some places and then hurts you in others. But that was definitely surreal. I was thinking in preparation for this about some of the experiences there, and I don't know if you remember this, but while we were building Jump in College Town, the building right next to us caught fire,
I do.
and this is before the idea of online backups existed, and this is definitely back in the time where it never ran through our minds that we needed off-site storage of like our software or anything like that we were developing. And so I remember I was down the street at a pizza place, and we were eating pizza, and all of a sudden we just see people running up the street, and we're like, like, what's going on? Must be something pretty interesting. So we come around the corner, literally the building next to ours is completely on fire, and like the first thing going through my head is like, oh my god, like everything that we've done is like sitting in the building next to that. So we go to run over to get it in, like just to literally rip out a computer and get it out of there, and it was crazy. Like the fire department was like, no, you can't come in, the building's closed off. So we snuck around the back of the building and climbed up on the onto a wall and came in the second floor to a machine and handed it out. So
Oh my gosh.
in case the fire spread, we wouldn't lose everything we did. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that just like that's infrastructure and sort of given today that just didn't even come close to existing at that point.
That's
So
great. That's great. So, tell us a little bit about the exit to Microsoft. So, was it expected? Were you looking for it? I mean, it all happened so fast. I mean, pretty incredible. Just tell us actually how it transpired.
yeah, so we launched Jump at a basically a forum um, convention. I think it was called David Corsi's Internet Showcase at the time. It was one of the hot places to launch your next company, um, and uh, and we got very lucky and won an award there for most fundable company, which dramatically ratcheted up the amount of attention we were getting.
Okay.
And in parallel, we had been very, I would say, tenacious and secured the same PR firm and woman that had driven PR for Hotmail, and to help drive our launch, which really was very lucky in that regard, and
Yeah.
that opened up a lot of doors. So the combination of those two things dramatically increased the amount of interest in the company really fast. And then, as would happen, there's usually some waves of consolidation. At the time, we were not the only company building a calendaring and personal information management tool online. You tend to see this like in the industry. There's just waves of startups doing similar things.
Right.
And I think at one point there are like 14 different calendaring startups like at the same time. And so those two things really helped us pull us and a company called Win.com out as
Okay.
like the two leaders in the space. And so very quickly it became clear that either we would join forces with someone or we'd be really pushing on our own path. And we had always intended to push on our own path, but the opportunities to work with Microsoft and the amount of overlap and where the industry was going and some of the consolidation we had just seen with Hotmail made it really
Yep.
pretty clear that this was a good path for us.
Yeah, and the one thing that you didn't mention was that they paid a good price for the company as well.
Yeah,
In stock, in stock. So you have, the two of you, and I know Bill was the original founder, so I don't want to go into equity splits or anything like that. But when Microsoft says we're going to pay you a lot of money in Microsoft stock, I'm sure that had to factor into the equation.
well, yeah, I mean, obviously, like it was a really important piece of the equation was like, what would this look like and what would this look like for our employees and
Yeah.
would this be a meaningful moment for people
Yep.
or not? And I think it was interesting. In parallel, we were talking to other companies about technology licenses to really do some next generation sort of. You can almost think of it as like voice assistant type stuff on top of what we were building. And so there was definitely a path that was like, no, we could go build and scale this. But we also saw that the huge amount of benefit of being able to connect with a company
Right.
scale of Microsoft and to be able to apply what we wanted to do and scale it that much faster
Yep.
within that ecosystem. And so I think that was a big part of it. I'll be transparent and say, we sold in April of '99, and so for about 6 months, Bill and I were like, oh no, we sold too early. We shouldn't have sold. Like, oh, the thing. Then the bubble burst, and we were like, we were brilliant. It was perfect time. a little bit of revisionist history there, but yeah, you never know.
Right. That's actually funny. So, jumping forward, sorry, I can't lose the pun. You started three companies. I'd love to get your views on how and why you decided to start them. And I want to weave in one of the questions. And by the way, for the audience, when I look up, I'm looking at my other screen. One of the questions asked, and this relates to starting companies, how do you overcome feelings of being overwhelmed at everything that needs to happen to start a company? Right? And doubts of, what if I can't do it all myself, or what if I can't get it done? So if you could weave in those kind of doubt issues with your answer, that would be super.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me personally, I've always been a builder at heart. Like I just like to make things and build things, and so that's part of like just my DNA. And so when I see opportunities, like I'm generally pretty motivated to kind of go build the thing. I think, as far as the companies that I have been a part of and sort of help to start, I think that there's a couple things that tend to run through my mind. One is there a large scale opportunity with the idea? There's no shortage of ideas. So I tend to think about, like, is there a real path and a meaningful path to scale?
Yep.
I tend to think a lot about timing. I think, history is, especially in our industry, is sort of littered with folks that were too early or too late with an idea. And so to some extent, you got to have the idea, the technology, and the timing and the team. And, like, are those things that can come together and really build something awesome. So those are sort of typically the key factors I look at. And I would say one that weighs heavily for me is probably the most is on timing.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
I like,
it's interesting.
good.
I would say it's interesting because the startups that you started, from a content perspective, what they actually do, they weren't all that related, were they?
No,
So
I think that's also sort of like a personal thing, which is, every sort of 4 on average years, my brain sort of goes, okay, it's time to reshuffle and move into a new space or pick a
right.
new challenge area. And sometimes I've been able to do that within the company I was at, like, I was able to do that at Microsoft and eBay. And sometimes that forces me to think about things outside and starting something new.
Yeah.
And, like the area of VR space opportunity was really one that, like, as an example with Neoglyphic, was one that we looked at the current state of technology and what was possible and where was the industry going, what was about to happen. And it was really clear to us that, we were going to need better tools for creating content in that space and being able to bring more realistic content into that space. And so that was sort of an impetus. So I think, is there a strong need? Is there a way to scale? Is it the right timing?
Right.
Sort of
And when you think about starting a company, were you building companies to sell them necessarily?
No, like I'd say, like, everyone probably has a different opinion on this, but my
Yeah.
personal one is I always build for the long term and a sustainable business. Like, it has to have a business plan and in a way that you can imagine making real money and scaling to a very large size. It has been the case that in the ones that I've been involved in, they've all gone the acquisition path.
Right.
But never started with that, and is like is a sort of a core fundamental. Always aim for sustainable business. It gives you choices.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's interesting. We just had our big conference in New York City a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking. We had a bunch of great speakers, and one of them was Ryan Hudson, who is the founder of Honey, who's also a Cornellian, and he mentioned that when they sold to PayPal, um, when they started the discussion, it was to PayPal Ventures, and they had no intention at all of selling the company. Like they didn't want to sell the company. It was like the company was a cash machine, and there was no reason to sell the company at all. They're like, we're just run this forever, build a great culture, have a wonderful company, make a lot of money. We'll all end up being completely happy. But the conversations escalated, and you know, the, the the number that was offered got high enough where they're like, okay, I guess we can sell. But it seems like that could actually pose a dilemma. I mean, you might want to build a company to keep it because you like working with your employee base. Have you ever felt tensions about selling?
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think probably the one that had the most tensions for me was when we sold Positronic to eBay. When they eBay first approached us, it was really about, like, solving some of the challenges that they had, and recognizing that what we were doing was complementary. And we basically said no. Like, thanks, really appreciate it, but
Yeah.
this isn't what we're thinking about right now. Um, and over the course of months to a half, like, they kept coming back saying, hey, what about this and what about that, and would you consider this? And and so eventually it made sense for us, and it made sense for the company and the employees, and that was the right thing to do.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think that those there's times where like the dream and the path that you're trying to realize and bring to market has to mentally shift if you're going to get acquired. And I find that those are harder than the ones where they're like, no, we're looking to acquire exactly you to do exactly what you're doing, and kind of just want you to do your thing. That's a little bit easier path, but I would say rarer.
Yeah. Had you raised outside capital at Positronics?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In all case, yeah, in all the companies that have been, we did outside capital, and
Okay.
we've done different structures. I would say, certainly my personal, and everyone has different opinions and preferences here, but I'm a reasonably big fan of sort of the friends and family convertible note type
Yeah.
format, for like the first round of capital, because it just maintains a lot of flexibility for the company
Right.
and founders, and that's generally good for everybody, because like you're
Yep.
actually trying to maintain maneuverability.
Yep. Did you ever have any I don't want to say conflict, but differences of opinion with your investors when it came time to sell? Or maybe the investors were more interested in selling than you were?
Um, no, I think there's definitely cases where everyone's wondering whether there's enough. Like, is the number big enough, or am I going to make a strong enough return on this? And balancing those pieces.
Yep.
But I think one of the biggest things that we tried to do our best on, and is maintain a reasonably high level of communication about how the company's going and what's working and what's not.
Okay.
One thing that sometimes it's easy to fall in the trap of is, as an entrepreneur, you're at least most of the entrepreneurs I work with are pretty glass half full. So they're like, hey, everything's great. This is going awesome. This is this. I think over time I've learned that it's very valuable to tell the whole story,
Right.
and almost force yourself to do, hey, here's the monthly update, highlights, lowlights, and make sure there's as many in each column. It just really maintains like the level of trust with the set of folks that you're working with. And so,
Yeah, that's actually so important. We ask, so I'm also a VC. We ask our CEOs to write to the board every week or two, just two up, two down, like both sides of the equation, so that
yeah,
no one's surprised and we can help with problems. And usually the good things we don't need to help with. It's usually the bad things that we need to help with.
yeah,
So let us know what they are. Okay, let's jump to big corporate a little bit. So you're unusual from my perspective in that you stayed for quite a long time at the big companies that acquired your startups. A lot of times I see founders get acquired as soon as their lockup or golden handcuff, whatever expires, they're gone. But you stayed at Microsoft for 8 years, 6 years at eBay, 4 years at Google. Now you're at Facebook. And by the way, it's also worth noting that it seems like Facebook is the first company that you joined from another big company. So big company to big company move. Um, how do you get the most out of big tech? Okay, and what attracts you as a in terms of being a corporate executive? I think it's clear now that you're a corporate executive. I'm not saying you won't do another startup, but you're clearly a corporate executive. It just seems odd.
yeah. No, it's I don't know if I would go with that title, corporate executive. It's not necessarily the target. I think for me, it's really about the impact, and the scale of the opportunity, and the ability to like impact a large number of people in a meaningful way.
Yep.
There's been some projects that I've had a chance to work on in my career that um, have really been able to do things at a scale that you just couldn't easily do as a startup, and would take a decade plus to achieve. And so, like when I was at Microsoft, one of the projects I got to help lead was desktop search, which was basically, making search fast on Windows. And we could literally calculate the amount of time that we saved humanity I don't know if some of you may remember way back when Windows XP had this little dog that would run next to your search when you search for a file on your computer, and it was sort of like trying to distract you from the fact that we were basically just repping your hard drive to find the file. And we could calculate the millions of minutes that we save humanity every year by delivering that feature at scale. And so, like, you can't, those are things that are harder to do at a startup and to do quickly.
Yep.
So I think, every company affords those opportunities. And again, I think of myself more as a builder at heart than necessarily purely an entrepreneur at heart. And so there's lots of different places to do awesome things.
So that's actually interesting. So being a builder at heart, you could be a builder at a startup. You can also be a builder at a big company as long as it's entrepreneurial inside the
Yeah,
company.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And, some of the best experiences have been working at companies where the founder is still present. Like, I was incredibly fortunate to get to work with Bill on desktop search as an example. And now at Facebook, those are things where the company still maintains a lot of that
Right,
flavor.
right. I was actually going to ask you, I want to just take a step backwards. When Microsoft purchased Jump, did you interact with Bill at that time?
So not during the purchase.
Okay.
We that was it was small enough
Yeah.
and distant enough that that wasn't part of the equation. But we did, we certainly, like, gosh, I think it was probably within a few months we were having our first review.
So I just lost. I don't know if Dane froze on anybody else. He froze on me.
He froze for me too, Zach. We'll
Okay.
give him a minute and see if he comes back.
Okay. Oh, there he is. So sorry, Bill. You froze for about 20 seconds.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So you were saying after a few months you were interacting with Bill Gates at
Yeah. No, Bill was really
it's kind
and especially the technology and the products that were being developed. And so he was definitely in the detail. I think one of the things I learned probably most from that was just, like, never stop using the products you're building.
yeah.
I think it's easy, especially in a larger environment or with a larger team, to be a little bit more distant from that. And you're out, talking to VCs, and you're trying to raise capital, and you're worrying about the marketing plan, and you're doing all these things. But even until my last days at Microsoft, Bill was regularly using the product and regularly giving feedback, and that's stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there's a question that just came into the chat. I'm gonna turn it around a little bit. As a builder inside one of these big companies, have you made acquisitions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so which I figured was the answer. How do you handle this problem with the employees of the acquired company? Like they're probably nervous. They don't know what's happening. Well, they know it's happening. They know they're being acquired, but they don't know what's going to happen in the future. How do you deal with that issue of what this attendee is calling dread from the acquiring companies? Like they're sensing, the employees are sensing dread, which might be a little too dramatic, but I'm sure it happens a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things I'd say, like, my personal experience has been that people who've been through the entrepreneurial experience, whether acquired or not, will be better at shepherding a new company into a larger organization, just because they understand those feelings, they understand
Right.
the uncertainties. So my general playbook is to always have someone like that really close to the deal, even if they're
Okay.
not, like, directly involved. And that's purely designed to sort of almost be the employee or inbound company's advocate, and to really, like, wear that hat in the process.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that, at least for me personally, when I think about an acquisition is, the acquiring company is hoping to get positive value out of that. And so, it is important to have some of those conversations up front. So like when I'm talking to founders that we're acquiring, before the deal's done, I'm like, look, at some point we're going to do something that you all are really upset about. That might happen on day one because we don't let you bring your dog into the office the way you want to, or it might like, and you never know. Like the thing that's really hard is like every company builds up a culture, right? And the culture is a lot of small things. And big companies have their own processes and their own set of cultures. And more often than not, I would say the thing that I've seen have the most tension is when those small like paper cut things start to accumulate. You're like, well, we can't have the dog here anymore, and we can't do this, and we can't like, and it just starts to feel like it's just not what it was. And
Yeah.
And so that's been something that like I would say like I try to hit as head on as possible. And and again, being upfront about the fact that mistakes are going to happen, and it's more about communication about the things that are problems so you can fix them.
Yeah.
Is really important. But
Yeah,
no matter
that's
what,
actually-
it's hard. Like any merger or acquisition is a blending of cultures, and that's typically really complex.
Yeah, I completely agree. They are never, there's no such thing as an easy acquisition. Unless, of course, there's only like 5 people at the acquired company. Obviously, the fewer the number of people, the easier it is to get them into the other company. But, at a normal company where you have 20 or 30 people or 40 people, there's always going to be tension. And I think management of that tension is absolutely, absolutely important.
Yeah. I certainly like a related thing I would say is in the scouting for companies that you might want to acquire if you're on the other side. If the missions of the companies aren't complementary, that's usually a red flag for me. Even if the thing is amazing. If the people are like, we're headed this way and you're headed that way, it doesn't matter how complimentary the thing looks on paper, like it just will struggle.
Right.
Now you're reprogramming everyone's ideas of what good looks like, or what the outcome is, or what we're chasing. And that's harder.
That's interesting. So, can you share with us why you decided to leave Google to join Facebook?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me it was relatively straightforward. I've been passionate about the entertainment space since I was a kid. It actually was what got me into programming. I was learning to code text-based games on like an Atari 800 XL was like the beginning, and from there I got to do some work in 2D graphics, and then I started doing some 3D graphic stuff, and that was sort of like all in sort of like up through high school. And so I was super passionate about that space. The first company I started to work for when I was a senior in high school was in that space, and so all through my career, like different reasons, I've been in different parts and doing different things. But when the opportunity came along to get to work really deeply in the entertainment space, across a number of different mediums, especially at this moment in time where so many new things are happening. It was just a really, really unique opportunity. And so,
I mean, it's actually interesting. It's interesting. I mean, they recruited you. Obviously, it was a recruitment process. Even though you did not have a lot of entertainment, big company experience, right?
yeah, I mean, look, I would say some of the work that we were doing, like at Neoglyphic on AR and things like that, were certainly complementary.
Okay.
At Google, we built AR walking navigation for
Okay.
Google Maps and things, and so there was certain complementary. But it's absolutely the case that I hadn't been a big tech exec in the entertainment domain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also think that like part of that is the equation of Facebook and it being an application that is way focused on like connection and how to help people. And
Right.
so
Right.
the entertainment is sort of one of the domains that people are doing that around. So it's not as much a singular distinct thing, and more the fact that entertainment needs to be a part of the cohesive experience that you get.
Okay.
So
And
definitely-
are you? I mean, it's been short in terms of months so far, but so far so good. I'm assuming. You must be happy there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think certainly we've we've had a name change since I joined. We've announced the work around the metaverse and the direction there. And for what I get to do is part of my day job for Facebook Entertainment is really around like how to bring amazing things to life across video, music, audio, and gaming. And so, we're also pretty deeply involved in how to connect those things into the metaverse. And so it's a pretty unique moment for the industry. It sort of feels, we were talking, I guess, earlier, obviously about like the beginning, early days of the internet.
Yeah.
This has a lot of the same feel. It's sort of the mobile wave or the beginning of the internet. It's a pretty open space at the moment.
Yeah. So explain in simple terms, what is your role as VP
Yeah.
of Facebook Entertainment at Meta?
Yeah. So basically, I'm responsible for all of the video, audio, music, and gaming experiences inside the Facebook application.
Okay.
And we also build some of the platforms for other parts of the company. So it's really about connecting people to the right content in the right context, and helping them to have great experiences. So we think a lot about publishers, developers, and creators, and how to get that content to the right people, and to match their interests and what they're looking for at any given time.
So are you going to enable us to feel like we're walking through our computers, just like that, just like the TV commercials I've been seeing, where they walk into a picture and they kind of go through the picture and or a painting and see all these cool things?
Yeah, look, I think the metaverse is really that next evolution and next generation of presence and connection. And so you think about this discussion that you and I are having right now. There are certainly limitations, and it's hard to feel real presence. If you add in 10 or 15 more people, it gets even harder. I saw a funny video recently of like pretending you were in a real room having a real meeting, but having all these same issues. And it's just fascinating to see, like, two people talk over each other, they stop, they stare, like, if you start to have, and try some of the experiences in the sort of 3D space, like workplace rooms and things, and some of the things that are out there, like you're able to actually have spatial audio, so you can hear different people talking at the same time because you can sort of understand the sourcing and where that's coming from. You can really feel presence with people, and you can move from one experience to another really fluidly. And so I think making that possible is really going to open up a whole new slew of ways for people to connect and do things in the world.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be educational components to that? I remember, gosh, it must have been 15 years ago. A few of the faculty members at the Johnson School where I used to work were using Second Life to actually run classes through Second Life, which I didn't understand at the time and probably still don't, but maybe a little bit better now. But it certainly was, augmented reality, and the faculty members just loved it. I mean, so do you think Facebook will have that type of product offerings? Again, I don't want you to say anything.
No, look, we just recorded a talk in Horizons for some of our partners, and it was full avatar, and it was surprisingly easy and fluid, and it felt like a real conversation. I think as you get to try these experiences and you get to feel them, you can really see the future. You can feel the glimpse. Like, you put a VR headset on and you experience even just some basic games and interactions with people. Like, it's extremely immersive and a very different feeling.
Interesting.
From the separation that I think a lot of us feel from, like, Zoom fatigue. And that for me is like something really awesome to get to work on. Because
I just thought of something that you guys should cure. Maybe you already have, but when we're on our Zoom call like now, when I look at you, which I'm doing now, it probably doesn't look like I'm looking at you because I'm looking down a little bit. right? So there's got to be a way where I can be looking at you on the screen and actually, for you, make it feel like I'm looking at you,
Yeah.
as opposed to looking down a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think having meetings in VR is a great example of, like, what just the early steps on that front. Like, you can
Yeah,
look at the person you're talking to, you can point at things, you can, if I point at something right now, you have no idea what I'm pointing at. Like, there's just so many basic things about our interactions that we have in person that technology hasn't been able to, like, really manifest,
yeah,
and that's all going to be possible with the
yeah.
metaverse.
Interesting. So again, I'm going to ask some questions now about what you're doing at Facebook, and with full understanding. I want to make sure the audience understands there are some restrictions as to what Dane can and can't say because Facebook is a public company, or now Meta is a public company. But let's just all keep that in mind. So if I ask anything, Dane, that you can't get into, by all means, just say I really shouldn't talk about that, and I'll just move to the next thing. But there's a question that just came in to the chat that says, what are the key strategies to set content apart on Facebook versus Instagram?
Yeah, look, I think both products offer a really great experience for people. You tend to see on Facebook a bit more on the community side and groups and connections, and facilitating those kinds of conversations. We are increasingly making it easy for creators to bring content to both platforms, because ultimately that's great for them, because they
Yep.
get more distribution. Um, I think you see a deep amount of visual content on the Instagram experience, and on Facebook you see a bit more on the friends and family piece as well. And so I think both products really help people to connect with content and connect with one another, but offer different and complementary set of tools. So I think part of the thing that we're really focused on now is also just making it easier for creators to get their content into both places. So, like with Reels, which is our short form video offering, it's much easier now to be able to have your content show up in both experiences.
Interesting, interesting. Here's another one. It says, hi, Dane. In your vision, will online economy be part of the music video gaming experience in the metaverse?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. If you fast forward a few years, I think you're going to see a whole slew of really interesting experiences coming to life in that environment. You can imagine, like, I think if folks haven't had a chance to see, there's a really good sort of vision video that we shared just about a month ago, that really gets into, like, a ton of the possible scenarios for a metaverse.
Yeah.
And again, this is, when we think about the metaverse, we think about it as something that we're all building together. Like, this is something that's going to require a lot of coordination. You think about the same way that the internet had a lot of similar protocols and things like that. So I think as that starts to manifest, you're going to see pretty much all the things that you see today that are possible on the internet starting to manifest in those experiences. You see that, to some extent already, like with games like Beat Saber, where there's a great intersection of music and content experience that's happening inside of VR. And so I think there's no question that's the direction that the industry's headed, and it's really about how to help facilitate those things.
Yeah, interesting.
Really.
How about this one? Which cryptocurrencies do you see becoming most relevant in the metaverse entertainment space?
Ooh, I don't know if I'm the best qualified person to answer that. I think it's certainly a case that there is a constant sort of arrival of new and different capabilities and technologies in crypto, and so
Yep.
I think that one's hard to predict which set will be there, but I would be very surprised if a lot weren't, frankly, enabled in that environment, in the same way that you see, like, lots of different companies pushing in that direction.
Yep. So we're getting some questions that I don't even understand. I'm afraid to ask them. I'm going to anyway. So this one from Brian, it says, how do you feel about the profile picture projects, PFP, taking over other blockchain ecosystems as they serve as entry passes into gated meta communities? And do you see Meta Facebook trying to embrace this for its platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a case that there are constant sort of new technologies and new evolutions on how things can manifest. And I think our focus continues to be on how do we best help people connect. How do we best give people the right experience to get things done, and how do we listen to the user, right? So if some of the next generation technologies enable things that people are really looking for, then of course we're going to be deeply looking at like how to embrace those across our experiences. But in general, it's our focus is a little bit less on the specific technology and more on like the user need and which technologies best facilitate that and help to make that possible.
Gotcha. How about infrastructure issues? It seems to make sense that advancements in the metaverse are going to be dependent on there being really solid broadband infrastructure. Does Facebook or Meta do anything about that on the? How do you advance those infrastructure initiatives?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person at Meta to talk to that. But it's absolutely the case that the back to the thing that we were talking about at the beginning, timing matters, right? So the concepts of a metaverse have been in science fiction now for quite some time, and there have been attempts from a technology standpoint at it throughout the years. I do think we're approaching that moment where as you see things like 5G and other technologies coming into the space and high bandwidth Wi-Fi, the ability to have sort of cordless, rich, immersive interactions. I still remember that my first VR headsets from 5 years ago, like they were big, heavy, a ton of wires were hanging off me, and somehow and if you think about how far that's come, like that's a good example of like certain things and certain pieces of the technology really need to be in place in order for it to be able to be a good enough experience for the user that like the benefits outweigh any kind of additional like overhead from the technology. Right. So I think bandwidth is certainly one of those things, but there's multiple things that factor into that path.
Okay, I want to go back to some basics if you don't mind. Can you share from your startup experience a few tips on the fundraising front?
Ooh, a few tips on the fundraising front. Yeah. Keep it simple. I think that's probably like the lesson I, for some reason, have to keep relearning every time I go out to raise money. Probably the most extreme version of this was Positronics. So we were basically taking the best of search technology and natural language processing, AI, et cetera, and combining it with some of the best of the finance space technology. And we went in to some of our first VC pitches for Positronic, and we were like trying to wow them on the amazing technology and this and that and all this other stuff. And like, we would get these like confused looks and like, I don't know if this is really for us, and we're like, what are we missing? Like, this is amazing. Like, and you have this passion and dream in your head. And so like, we're like, wow, maybe we should simplify it a little bit. So we simplified that, went in, we were like, I think I get it, but like, I'm not really sure if this is for us. And then we reshuffled the deck again. And like, finally, I think on like the fourth iteration, I was really frustrated. So I was just like, all right, new slide. I'm like, search plus finance equals lots of dollars. And everyone's like, all right, so how do we fund that? So I do think that like as an entrepreneur are deep and steeped in the details, and you know your space, and part of what you think the job to do is to convey to your investors like all of that. And in reality, they just need confidence that you're onto something big and that you are well set up to execute on.
Yeah. And I'm guessing I know the answer to this as it pertains to you. But when you were searching for investors, were you searching for subject matter experts, or were you searching for money?
Yeah, so my personal strategy on this has been one of get advisors um, to and feel free to give them some equity
Hmm.
for their time and their advice, but get subject matter experts who are exactly who you need for the gaps that you have.
Yep.
And if you can find a VC that is complementary and has experience and can help, that's awesome. Like it helps to open additional doors and all those kinds of things. Um, but I personally would be looking more for the relationship. And do you have a really good rapport, and are you aligned on how you think about the space and the company and like what the outcomes are going to be with the capital?
Yep.
Because that's a different conversation than necessarily advice on like how to solve some problem in AI or blockchain or whatever is the latest thing.
Right. Right.
So those things shift. That's the other thing is I'd say technology and like the advice you need at any given moment changes. And so it's a lot easier to have someone on a 1-year advisor agreement than it is to pick a VC that you're basically stuck with and connected to for the rest of time.
Yeah. I mean, have you
And again, I say
had?
that with all due respect. Like it's just you just
Yeah,
want
no, I trust me, I know it all too well. One of my favorite stories is that we made an investment in a company, and before we made the investment, we had an argument with the founders, and we never should have made the investment. Like that was just that one argument should have just been the sign. Like this isn't good. This is going to be a very painful experience. But we did make the investment, and it was a painful experience, unfortunately, and it's just mentally extremely draining.
yeah, and that's
Um,
true for both sides, right? Like
oh yeah,
it's never easier and greener than before the deal signed. So
right,
if it's not
right.
easy and not feeling great, then like that should be
Don't do it.
a big
Don't
warning
do
warning signs.
it.
Yeah.
Have you had many tense moments with investors? I mean, post investment, obviously. What I'm asking about.
Um, not really. Like I mean, there's certainly been cases where you get hard questions and people push.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, but I would say that like my personal experience has been again that the more you communicate, the better. The places
Yep.
where I've had more tense conversations is where I've dropped the ball on like over communicating,
Yep.
or weren't as transparent as I would be say now on how things were going,
Yeah.
um, and what was working and what wasn't. I think uh, generally speaking, especially if you're careful on your screening of like who you're bringing in to invest, like people are investing because they're investing in you, they're investing in the idea, and they want it to succeed. So if you're open about the things you're struggling with or having some hiccups with, like you'll also find people who are like, oh, like have you tried this, or let me introduce you to so and so. And so that's usually been, I just find it's been easier to get in front of that stuff than let it lag.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. How about scaling on the startup side? Can you give the audience any scaling tips
Yeah, I
besides,
mean,
besides reading Hoffman's book? I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's tons of great content out there
yeah.
on different tools and mechanisms. Um, you know, I I tend to push for ruthless prioritization um,
Okay.
and time management. So when we talked about timing of like your idea, to me that the other thing that is probably of most value is your time as an entrepreneur. Like how much you only have so many hours in a day.
Right.
So that is the most critical resource. And so the more deliberate and diligent you can be about the way you spend your time and what you're spending it on, the better. So take the 15 minutes at the end of every day to kind of like write down how the day went and what you would do differently and what are the 1, 2, 3 things you really have to do the next day. Um, and then be ruthless about that. There's always going to be some new fire that comes up, new issue, new question, what about this idea, all that kind of stuff. And you just kind of, at least for me, I just have to kind of partition that stuff,
Interesting.
and go, that is a great idea. We'll talk about that tomorrow. um, you know uh, and that's also helpful for the team, like keeping the team focused. It's totally fine to pivot, but if you're churning constantly, it's also not very helpful, and you're wasting time and energy.
Yeah. So we only have time for maybe two more questions. How about team building? So, and at the senior level, how do you go about finding the right hires at the senior level? So I'm not talking about founders, but just, you know, the extra people on the leadership team that you bring in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking about a startup environment, I think part of my screening process is being brutally honest about what to expect.
Okay.
I'm probably overly brutally honest because I've been through a few different versions of tough or harder periods of time. I still remember when we were at Jump, and Bill and I moved sort of our very small savings into the company so that we can make payroll for a week because the check hadn't shown up in time. There's things that you're going to go through, and there's going to be time crunches. There's going to be tough calls. There's going to be times we got to work weekends and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to be pretty brutally honest about what the downside case could look like, and that usually scares away like half the people, and that's just fine for me. Like you kind of want to make sure someone's really in for what the experience is going to be, and just as much in the bad times as the good. And so everyone comes in with the dream of the big success, but it's not always like that, and there's going to be rough days. I tend to look a lot at like people and interaction skills, like are especially at more senior level leads. Like you can get someone who's incredibly talented, but doesn't carry the people skills, and that is in some ways worse than someone who has excellent people skills and may not have this bit of talent. But if they can find the right people, if they can find the right things that they know how to solve, that's another one. And then third, probably for me, is problem solving skills. The person who's like, look, I'm only an engineer and I only code. As the senior hire, I'm like, no thanks. Like I'm sure you might be great down the road, but like at the beginning, everyone's going to be wearing different hats. Everyone's going to be moving around. Like we had times where the entire company became QA, and like we were all doing quality assurance and testing, and then the next day everyone's like, all right, stuff these envelopes, we got to send out flyers. The next day, it's like, so you gotta look for people who really have that problem solving skill and the ability to kind of wear multiple hats and be happy about it.
Excellent. Okay, one last question. What's it like to work with Mark Zuckerberg?
I'm thoroughly enjoying working at a founder-led company again. I think it's great to have like focus in decision making, and I'm also really inspired by the problems we want to go solve and the things that we're working on, and the amount of effort and care that goes into the products and the experiences that we're building for people everywhere. So it's been great so far. Excellent.
So we are out of time. We're at 3:01. So I want to just thank you directly, Dane. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. I know that you're super, super busy. For folks on the webinar still, when we end, it's just going to shut off abruptly. So we'll say goodbye now. I do want to remind everyone that we are being recorded today. This webinar, along with all of our others, are up on the E@C YouTube channel and also the CEN live stream channels. We'll be announcing our next webinar soon. It'll likely be end of January or beginning of February. Have a great holiday season. As I like to say, now that we're past Thanksgiving, gobble, gobble, and ho, ho, ho. Whatever your denomination is, it doesn't matter. Have a wonderful holiday. Dane, thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.